Hi guys, so today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the application process for medical school. This is kind of a video that I've been kind of holding off on filming just because I wanted to kind of go through the entire process before actually putting out a video. As I believe that I've gone through the entire process at this point, I thought it would be a good time to actually sit down and film this video for you guys. So as far as applying to medical school, when the process really begins is about a year and a half before you actually intend to start medical school. So for example, if you want to go into medical school straight after graduating from college, you really want to start applying the end of your junior year. For me, I decided to take a gap year, so I applied the end of my senior year, and now I will be starting in 2016. As far as when you start applying to medical school, that usually is around June. So I know that the application that you send out for your primary is, I believe, released around May, but then you can officially submit it, I believe, the first week of June. So normally that's kind of around the time frame that you want to be doing that. Now, of course, you can obviously apply later, but normally they say that you want to have your application in by the end of June. Now obviously medical school works on a rolling admissions basis. So what that means is that as medical schools are getting admissions, they are reviewing them and then they are deciding who they want to send out their secondaries to. So it definitely is advantageous to apply as early as you possibly can, just because that will put you in kind of the first group of applicants that are being reviewed. So the first big part of applying to medical school is the primary. So the primary application is kind of just one big application that goes out to all the medical schools that you want to apply to. So that one pretty much covers just your general information. You input your academics, so all the classes that you took and kind of what grades you got, your extracurriculars, and then I think the last portion of that is actually your personal statement. So once you fill all that in, that goes out to all your medical schools. So I think in this point of the application process, it's still relatively new. It's a little bit tedious just because you have to go in and put everything and, you know, make sure that you have a really good personal statement and, you know, put in the letters of recommendation that you had to get from your professors. So at that point, it's not crazy, but it's a little bit tedious. So after you send in your primary, hopefully before the end of June, and then it's like a waiting period. So right after you send in your primary, you're kind of just waiting to hear back from schools to see if they're going to send a secondary. Typically, I would say that it's most likely that you will get back a secondary, but there are some schools that actually don't even send out a secondary, so do keep that in mind. So secondaries usually come out maybe around the middle of July, and at that point, what it actually is that each individual school that you apply to sends you their version of the application. So sometimes there are additional questions that they want you to fill out. Sometimes all you have to do is just respond to whatever they want you to say. So the secondary application consists of essays that the school wants you to answer. I'd say for the most part, something that I noticed that was pretty common about secondary application essays were that they wanted to kind of tie in the mission statement of the school, and two, that they wanted to address diversity. I think it was particularly true for me because the schools that I applied to were in major cities, and then the major cities that had quite a diverse culture. I think it's safe to say that the schools want to know that they're getting a pretty mixed group of students that for their entering class. So usually, like I said, you get the secondaries around the middle of July, and then you can pretty much fill them out whenever. I was under the impression that you couldn't send them in until like August 15th, so I kind of like took my time on them. But I believe that you can send them in as soon as you want, so do keep that in mind. And then you can pretty much send in your secondaries until maybe November, December. I know that most schools have a deadline. I'm pretty sure that the ones that I applied to was around December, somewhere in November, but just make sure to keep in mind for the deadlines. And then secondaries, you will get very tired just because a lot of the essays are pretty similar, but sometimes you want to rephrase them so that it answers the question that's being asked of you, and then that can get a little bit tedious. So by the end of secondaries, I was just so ready to just be done. Just be done with essays and just move on to the next part of the medical school application process. And then once you finally submit your secondaries to the schools, that is the waiting period. Now for me, this was kind of a very like scary and frustrating period just because you don't know what's going to happen. When you submit your primaries, you're pretty sure that you're going to get a secondary back, so you're still pretty calm. But once you hit the secondaries portion of the application process, you don't know what's going to happen, and I think that can be rather daunting. I know for me, like, it took a little bit of time before I heard back from the schools that I applied to, and that was pretty scary. I did hear back from one school pretty early, and that school didn't even have a secondary application, so it was totally unexpected. And they wanted me to come in for an interview, and that was kind of my first interview, and that was super exciting. I believe that once you get that first interview, it's just so validating because you're like, okay, cool, someone thinks I'm good enough to do this. And I mean, I'm sure you are, but you can be a little hard on yourself as a pre-med, so I know that just having that piece of information that you can actually go on and, you know, show someone that you are worthy of being at their school is so awesome. So once interview season starts, kind of, I would say September through March is like interview season. The earlier that you get interviews is probably the better, but don't think that you have to be interviewed super early in order to have a chance to get in. My first interview, I think I got invited to do in September and was scheduled for the end of September. And then I heard back from them actually in October. And then actually in November I was asked to interview at another school, and I was super excited about that. It actually fell around my birthday, and it was kind of like a really great birthday present because that was the school that I'm actually going to go to, and that was really awesome. When I was invited for my second interview, I was really excited because it was a Chicago school, and I was also feeling pretty confident because I had already been accepted at another school. So I went in and I was really pumped and energetic that I was getting a chance to interview in the city where I really wanted to stay. So that was a really good interview day for me. I actually wrote all about it on my blog. So that was kind of nice too, because I was already starting the blog and, you know, wanted to document what happened. So I interviewed with them in like early December. And then they said that they were going to try to get back to us before the end of the month, which they did. I think around December 20-something, I heard back from them and I had gotten accepted. So that was really exciting. So between that and around now-ish, I was just, you know, waiting to hear back from everyone else. So by early March, I'd heard back from the other schools that I had applied to, and they said that they couldn't offer me an interview at this moment and, you know, wish me luck with my future and, you know, with the rest of my application process. So just recently I actually reached out to the first school that I was accepted at, and I told them that I was no longer going to attend their school. I had put it off because I was just, you know, a little bit nervous about doing it, and then also it just makes it so much more like official saying, hey, I'm going to this school and I'm now, you know, telling other schools that I no longer want to attend. But I feel at this point in, you know, the whole process, I feel really good. Obviously I've been accepted somewhere, and that is obviously really great. Looking back on the whole process, if I had to give myself any advice, I would probably say, like, calm down, it's gonna be okay. It's not as scary as you think. I know that I was very stressed about a lot of things and trying to figure everything out, and I would get worried sometimes if there had been like quite a bit of time between, you know, sending something in and not hearing back from someone. So if I could look back on it, I would say calm down, don't worry about it. Sometimes schools do take a little bit of time to get back to you, and that's not a bad thing. Something that was told to me at one of my interviews was that if you haven't heard from the school, that's not necessarily a bad thing. When schools are no longer interested, or when, you know, they don't want to keep you on their list, they will send you an email and they will let you know that they're no longer considering you. But until then, hold tight and just hope that everything is in the works. You have to keep in mind that a lot of people are applying to these schools, so, you know, sometimes it might take them a little bit to get back to you. Another thing is that the application process is quite pricey. You do have to pay for the primary application, there's a set fee for just filling out the primary application, and then for all the schools that you want to send it to. And then for secondaries, usually each school has their own fee to fill out secondaries, and those could be pretty, like at least $60 to $100 depending on the school. So just keep that in mind. But as far as the whole application process, it's definitely doable. It's not as scary as you think, and when you get to the end of it, it's going to be very rewarding, I promise you, because you might get accepted into medical school and then you get to be a doctor, so that's pretty cool. If you have any questions about the application process, or you just want to say hi, please feel free to leave me a comment. I love reading your guys' comments. And as always, like the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more from me. I'm trying to put out more videos so that you guys can have more information, and also so you can see me a little bit more. And as always, thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you guys later.